Welcome along to another video. I am That Cycling Chimp, and in this one I'm going to be talking a little bit about a piece of cycling technology that's been around for a few years now, but it's gaining a lot of interest recently. Some of you in the community say that this is the next big thing in cycling safety, while others think it's just a trending gimmick. Today I'm going to be talking about one of these, a bicycle radar. So if you're interested in finding out a little bit more about them, grab a cuppa, kick back and relax, and let's get the show on the road. What is a bicycle radar? Well, for the uneducated viewer, this is a device that attaches to the rear of your bike, usually on the seat post, and it helps the cyclist be aware of anything that's coming up from the rear. They work by using radar technology to detect the presence and speed of nearby objects that are travelling faster than the cyclist, which could be anything from a car to another cyclist. The radar basically sends out a signal, and when that signal bounces back after hitting an object, then communicates with the cyclist, typically through an audio or visual cue, depending on their setup, to be informed of traffic that's round about them. It's basically like sonar. If you've watched any of my other adventure videos, you'll probably hear a kind of pinging or a beeping noise in the background. This is my radar alerting me to things that are round about me. But before we go any further, let's have a quick look at the timeline of the bicycle radar technology. In January 2014, iKubu started a Kickstarter campaign online for a backtracker radar. It gained that much attention that 1 year later, Garmin acquired the patents in the technology from iKubu. And in August of that year, Garmin brought out the first generation of the bicycle radar in their range called the Varia. And the first two that were brought out were the Varia RTL 500 and 501, which is an absolute mouthful. A couple of years later in 2018, Garmin brought out their second generation, which was the RTL 510. And in 2019, Wahoo, which is another bicycle computer manufacturer, added support to their range of the Element GPS computers. In May 2020, Garmin then released the third generation of their bicycle radars, known as the RTL 515 and the RVR 315. Between then and May of 2022, production was scaled back because of world events. I wonder what that could have been. Anyway, in May 2022, Garmin came out with another one, the RTC 715. Magine and Brighton announced their entries into the market at the 2022 Eurobike Expo. And in 2024 and beyond, the units are only going to get smaller and the technology is going to get slightly better. So now we know the timeline of the bicycle radar, which roughly makes them about 10 years old, give or take. Why are they becoming so popular all of a sudden? One word: affordability. They're becoming far more wallet sensitive than they were previously because they were pretty expensive. The cycling community as a whole are adopting to these things through word of mouth rather than an aggressive ad campaign from the cycling companies. Anybody I've spoke to, they've not said a bad word about them. The only thing they have said is there's a slight learning curve at getting used to having one on the bike. They're a great assistant tool and it helps the rider feel safer. It actually empowers their riding. They also save space and they're very light to carry on your bike. They are battery powered and they're also charged by USB, which is pretty handy because near enough everything's charged by USB these days, so you don't need to get a special cable. They come in a few different styles and variations. You can get just the radar itself, or you can get the backlight and radar combo, which seems to be the most popular. This one here is the RCT 715. Now it's a radar, light and a camera, and there's a reason I've got this set up. Now some of you may or may not know this about me, but I was involved in an incident with a car, my bike and a lot of tarmac. Now I don't remember anything of what happened that day, but I do remember that there was a lot of road rash and recovery, and I was told that I was very lucky. It took me a wee while to get back into the saddle, but once I did get back into the saddle, this was the first piece of equipment that I bought because it was highly recommended to me by a lot of people. I also had to buy a new helmet as well, but that's another story. Now, I'm not an ambulance chaser, nor am I one of those guys on social media that are purposely filming road users in precarious situations, although some of the footage that I've got can be quite hair-raising, I'll tell you that. This Garmin RTC 715 records in full HD at 1080p and 30 frames per second. Now Steven Spielberg is not going to be champing the door because you're not going to be shooting cinematic masterpieces with it, but it is very handy should an incident occur. They use a looping system to record, and I think you can change the settings for if you want to record like 1 minute at a time or 2 minutes at a time. But if you're ever involved in an incident, it actually locks that footage and then saves it. Now, the footage is really clear. It can show exactly what's happened, who was involved, and if there was a vehicle involved, it can pick up the car registration plate clear as day. The footage is time and date stamped, And that saves a lot of time with police reports, insurance claims. Just because the video evidence is available, it means that any statements can't be falsified, which is a win for both parties. As I said, all the footage is then saved on the SD card, which can then be uploaded to your phone or your computer or whatever device you need to use. There's also a setting within it where if you have an accident and you even fall off your bike, it'll actually send out an emergency contact, kind of beacon as such, whether that be to the emergency services or to whoever is set up as a contact. And with the GPS location switched on, it is claimed that you will be found. It's pretty much like having a rear dash cam. I know you can buy a front camera and light from Cyclique called the Fly 12, but it's not got a radar on it. But that is a good bit of kit too. For me, it's roughly about the same price as a GoPro. I like to have the versatility of the GoPro rather than a standalone light and camera on my bike. But I have to admit, these pieces of equipment are absolutely game changing and they're becoming essential for cycling safety overall. As life today in general is just getting a lot more busier with pedestrians, drivers and cyclists, you need to have your wits about you at all times on the road. Now, I'm not saying these radars are going to stop you having an accident, far from it, but it will greatly reduce the chances. The greatest example I can give, and many of you will agree with this, is electric or hybrid vehicles. They're becoming more and more popular on the road these days, and they're absolutely silent when they're coming up from behind. And I know this firsthand because I own a hybrid vehicle, so I know how quiet they can be. With the radar, it actually detects whatever's coming up behind, so you always know what is behind you. So what do I think are the true pros of the cycling radar? Well, first off, it's enhanced safety. It just gives you higher reassurance on the bike. It gives you a lot of peace of mind. It's literally like having a set of eyes in the back of your head. It actually reduces your stress as well due to that peace of mind. So you do have less stress on the road. It encourages confident riding. You gain confidence in your cycling abilities again. And that's because you know you've got this radar watching your back. And community safety. It contributes to a safer community. Now, cyclists are all talking about these through word of mouth, as I said. But by promoting the adoption of these, it's given us extra vigilance as well. But the biggest question you're going to be asking just now is what I think the cons are about these bicycle radars. The first one, right off the bat, is the cost. They are still quite pricey, which can put quite a lot of cyclists off, but they are becoming more affordable. I remember when I bought this, it was pretty expensive at the time, but they are heavily reduced in price on quite a lot of the cycling websites. And if you shop around, you can get a good deal on them. They do have a learning curve, and I found that it took me a little while to get used to it. And I think people that are kind of not so much tech savvy, they will struggle a little bit with them at first. Sometimes it'll give you a false alarm as well. I've had it when I've been passing certain traffic lights where it'll come up with a sensor error, but it seems to kick itself back in straight away. There is an area of concern there. Also, it'll pick up anything that's behind you if it's travelling faster, whether that be a car, a bike, sometimes a dog. But in my case, it's usually aircraft when I'm passing the airport. And there's nothing like an American Air Force plane coming in to land and you think, oh, I've got a car behind me, and you look behind and you see that. It is hair-raising. Another con I see is the compatibility issue. And I'm not talking about compatibility as in like with software and stuff like that. It's actually with your bike. The biggest compatibility issue I have is I can't really run with a saddlebag. I'm having to use a frame bag and a roll bag at the moment. There is 3D printed attachments out there, but it's really for certain types of bags. I can't use like one of the backpacking saddlebags on the bike, which I do have one and I do like it, but it just renders useless. I have seen that there is a pannier edition of a mount that I can use, but I don't want to put like a permanent pannier on my bike. The biggest con for me is the battery life. Garmin claims that my version can run for 6 hours. I get just over 4 with my setup. I probably could get a little more up if I play about with the settings a little bit more, but yeah, I get roughly about 4 hours, so it's not exactly the greatest. I would love it if they brought out an interchangeable battery system, and I think that would be beneficial for bike packers and adventure cyclists. It's different if you're maybe only doing a Gran Fondo, you're maybe only doing 100 kilometres, or you know, it'll do you for a day, but yeah, the battery life could be a little bit better. So in conclusion, bicycle radars like this one stands as a testament for the cycling companies to commit and enhance cycling safety on the roads. With practical applications and a focus on safety, this device and others like it have rightfully earned their place as an essential tool for the rider. As cycling continues to grow in popularity, tools like this play a vital role in creating a more safer and enjoyable cycling environment on the road. For me, I was a bit sceptical at first. I just thought they were an overpriced piece of equipment for the disposable income cyclist. But I will say this, since owning one, it's paid for itself. Not only has it saved my skin a couple of times, but it has helped my riding abilities. If anybody asked me, yep, I would highly recommend them to buy one. Even if it was the lowest price tier, they're worth their weight in gold. Even if it was a small radar, it didn't need to be a combo. But yeah, I would definitely advise anybody to buy one of these. Well, that's us got to the end of another video. I hope you've enjoyed today's video and maybe learned a little bit more about bicycle radars if you were maybe in the fence thinking about buying one. If you did enjoy it, give me a huge thumbs up, and if you really liked it, consider hitting that subscribe and notification button down below, because your subscribing keeps me and the channel riding. Also, feel free to let me know in the comments below if you own a cycling radar and what you think about them. Do you think they are the future of cycling safety? If I've missed anything else out, please feel free to ask down below. I hope to see you all in the next one, but in the meantime, you can check out my last video here, which was crushing another 50 kilometres in the Ayrshire coast, or you can check out previously on that cycling chimp down below, which are videos from the archives. Until the next time guys, bye for now.